Hurricane Melissa has intensified into a powerful Category 5 hurricane this morning, and we continue to expect catastrophic impacts for portions of the Caribbean over the next few days. Jamaica is first, Cuba is next, then we watch the Bahamas, then even Bermuda, maybe even Atlantic Canada as we get towards the end of this week. But we continue to be extremely concerned about what unfolds over the next few days, and we're here to give you the latest information that we have. And timestamps will be up throughout the entire video. Take advantage of them. Watch whatever you feel like you need to watch. I know my videos are very long, but there's a lot of information in here, and I feel like with a situation like this, you need to get as detailed as possible when it comes to all the information that we have. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. We continue to pray for you folks here in the Caribbean for what's about to happen, unfortunately. So let's get going this morning. So Category 5 hurricane, 160 mile per hour storm. I mean, I don't really have to say much on this. This looks the part. It looks like a Category 5. We have these cold cloud tops going around the actual low-level circulation. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see where the eye of this hurricane is. It's right here. It's cleared out. And this just pretty much looks like that classic buzzsaw looking Category 5 hurricane. So we continue to watch for intensification, even further intensification over the next 24 hours or so, all the way up to landfall, which will most likely happen sometime tomorrow morning along the southern coastline of Jamaica. But hurricane hunters will continue to fly into this system, and I could see this getting all the way into the 170s as far as miles per hour, but right now it's 160. Peak forecast intensity is now at 165. Jamaica here, this is well off the southern shoreline, but it will begin to turn north over the next 12 hours or so. The latest from the National Hurricane Center, this was upgraded to 5 a.m. advisory to a Cat 5. Central pressure is 917, so we're in those 19s, just like what the hurricane model showed us over the last few days. 160 mile per hour storm moving west. It actually has slowed down a little bit more since last night's information to 3 miles per hour. I do think the movement will begin to turn to the northwest and eventually to the north and eventually to the north-northeast over the next 24 hours or so. But the latest cone has not changed a whole lot. Peak intensity is now at 165, and like I said, hurricane hunters going into this right now, they might find even stronger winds. By the time some of you folks watch this, could be a 165, 170 mile per hour Cat 5 hurricane. But center of the storm right here, Category 5, 165 by this afternoon. By tonight, 2 a.m., 160, and is now forecast to make a landfall as a Category 5 hurricane. Now, the cone is still wide over Jamaica. Still could technically make landfall. The center of it, near Kingston, still can make landfall at the western end of the island. But the center of the cone is right smack in the middle of these areas. I mean, I'm talking about, just west of Alligator Pond. And these areas right into here will most likely see the worst of the winds, that inner eye wall we keep talking about. But the entire island of Jamaica will see hurricane conditions. I mean, even the areas. Remember, this is not the impact cone. This is where the center of the storm could go. Should weaken due to landfall and just interaction with the higher terrain of Jamaica into a Category 4. So by Tuesday afternoon, the center of the storm should be off the northern coastline of Jamaica. And then from Tuesday afternoon to Wednesday morning, so this is a 12-hour period. So Tuesday p.m. to Wednesday 2 a.m., it should get north of Jamaica, make another landfall. Its second landfall, which we now have hurricane warnings up for eastern Cuba, will make its second landfall somewhere into eastern Cuba. We now have tropical storm warnings up for the entire coastline of Haiti now. Okay, and we now have hurricane watches up for the Turks Caicos Islands, all the way through the southern to central Bahama Islands. But it really is liking this area right here, which I believe is called the Acklands. I should pull up my Google Maps, but I'm not. But this is the island right here. It likes as a central landfall. Model Guys is really locked into this area as far as the heart of this system making landfall, the low-level circulation. But the cone is still wide in this area, and by about Wednesday 2 p.m., it's saying it should be a pretty high-end Cat 2 storm rumbling through the Bahamas. Then by around Thursday 2 a.m., doesn't weaken a whole lot, still a Category 2 100 mile per hour hurricane. And then as we go from here, to here, which is Bermuda. Bermuda, you're right smack in the middle of this cone. Around 2 a.m. Friday, high-end Cat 1 hurricane, 90-mile-per-hour hurricane still. Probably begins to lose some of its tropical characteristics, but Bermuda, you're going to get impacted by another tropical system towards the end of this work week, Thursday into Friday. And as of now, Newfoundland not in the cone, but this begins to fully lose those tropical characteristics by the time we get into this weekend. We'll see if areas like the Avalon Peninsula gets into this cone a little bit out of the time range here. But like I mentioned, hurricane hunters are diving into this again. So we're about to get new information. Could be a 165, 170 mile per hour hurricane here in the next hour or so. We just have to see. Let's go over some hurricane model guides, and I will tell you that all the hurricane models are initializing too weak for this system as far as millibar. For example, the HFA model says it's a 927, but it's actually 10 millibars lower than this. So we will continue to look at this because it's the only thing we can look at. We get into this afternoon, we'll maintain or either gradually strengthen into even a higher end Cat 5 storm. And then we get into tomorrow morning, and this is when it makes its landfall approach. So somewhere between, Kingston's way over here. This pretty much makes landfall along the central southern coastline of Jamaica. So if you live in this area of Jamaica, whoever gets the worst of the winds will be in that inner eye wall, guys. This is where you could see those 150, 160, maybe even 160 plus mile per hour wind gusts. This is where the true devastation wind-wise will occur. But let's not get it twisted here. The entire island of Jamaica is going to get hurricane force winds, and probably everywhere in Jamaica will probably at least get 100 mile per hour plus wind gusts just in every area. Okay, but this makes landfall sometime tomorrow morning, rides over the island, hooks northeast pretty fast, comes up, makes another landfall. And the HFA model is definitely further east with Cuba, but still makes a landfall into eastern Cuba as a major hurricane. Comes up, and it actually misses that area we keep talking about and hooks further east. This brings more of the Turks Caicos Islands into the mix, which are over here. So it really affects more so just the deep southern Bahama Islands and even the Turks Caicos, and really likes this island right here, which I'm going to pull up Google Maps right here, and we'll see what this is showing here. And I'm going to do this on the fly, so y'all bear with me, but I feel like this is okay just because we're trying to get it as exact as possible. But it really, this model, Mayagüana, hopefully I said that right. But this island here, which I'm not sure if that's the name of the island or not, and I'm going to butcher some names, guys, but I hope you guys know I mean well with this. But this is getting into Wednesday afternoon, likes that island more so. Still affects that other area I've been talking about right here. But as we continue to move forward here, where does Bermuda show up on your screen? Where are you, Bermuda? Bermuda. Right here. We get into Friday morning, and late Thursday night into Friday morning, we see impacts, and then it quickly races off and then heads away. HFB model, here it comes. We're getting into Tuesday morning, makes that landfall right as the sun's coming up into the southern shoreline of Jamaica, and it pretty much likes around the same area as the HFA model. It's going to be tough to figure out exactly where this makes landfall, but it really likes this area right into here. And if we go back and we look at this, it pretty much has that on the cone here. It likes this area right into here is where the actual low-level circulation, the eye of the hurricane, will make landfall, which we know that inner eye wall goes around that eye, right? But here it comes. Category 5 hurricane at landfall, goes over the island, and it hooks east fast, just like the HFA model, but still makes that second landfall into eastern Cuba, but gets certainly south of that area we were mentioning heavily last night, and more so affects the Turks Caicos Islands and the far southern Bahama Islands, and then rumbles through and as a category 2 or 3 hurricane. And then Bermuda gets hit by that northern eye wall sometime late Thursday night into Friday morning of this week. And this could still be a powerful, very large Cat 1, maybe even low-end Cat 2 hurricane. H-Wolf model, this continues to be a bit of an outlier, but it's still a possibility. We get into this afternoon, this continues to be a high-end hurricane, category 5. This comes up and makes that landfall much further west into Jamaica. And I continue to think this is possible. So this would bring the worst of the conditions for the entire western half of Jamaica. The last two models I just showed you, it's just right through the heart of Jamaica. Still bringing impacts to everybody else too. But I mean, you see these feeder bands going right through eastern Jamaica. I mean, this is still going to cause huge issues. But it's a little bit of an outlier with how west it gets. And it comes up, makes landfall in eastern Cuba sometime Tuesday afternoon, or Tuesday evening, I would say, Tuesday night. Then Wednesday morning, gets north of Cuba, then rumbles through the Bahamas sometime Wednesday. The Bahamas Wednesday looks to be your day in the Bahamas and Turks Caicos Islands. And then where is Bermuda? It actually misses Bermuda pretty good to the east. HMON model, here it comes. HMON model, it really likes the idea of this system getting even stronger and makes landfall sort of between the HAF models and the H-Wharf model. So it actually leans a little bit further west, makes landfall before the sun comes up around 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning into the western southern shoreline of Jamaica, and then moves over Jamaica. And then we get into Tuesday afternoon, kind of makes a quicker landfall into Tuesday evening into eastern Cuba, gets north of Cuba, rumbles through the Bahamas early Wednesday morning. Heck, and by the time we get into Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, this is through the Bahamas and the Turks Caicos. And yeah, so impacts. See if we have any new information here. We do not. So this is still information from yesterday, but still expecting in this dark purple, well, this purple area, up to 40 inches of rain. The pink is 20 to 30 plus inches of rain across these areas in Jamaica. This burgundy color, that is 16 to 20 inches of rain, eastern Cuba, good chunk of Jamaica. And then the red color, that's 12 to 16 inches of rain, little area here in Haiti. Good chunk of eastern Cuba, sections of Jamaica. I could see this shifting a little bit further west, we'll have to see. And then that orange is 8 to 12 inches of rain. So this is going to be catastrophic across areas of eastern Cuba. It already has been across areas of Haiti and Dominican Republic and Jamaica, certainly. This is going to just cause issues. If you're not familiar with the Greater Antilles, there's definitely higher elevations on Cuba and then Hispaniola, which includes Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and Jamaica. It's definitely not just flat islands. We got higher terrain here in eastern Cuba. Higher terrain is across Jamaica once you get off the shoreline, and it's definitely mountainous. And this creates lift. All this tropical moisture gets pushed up against the higher terrain. That lift squeezes out all the available tropical moisture in the atmosphere, and we just get torrential rains. As far as the winds, guys, I'm going to go over two hurricane models here. First, the HFA model. Now you see this sort of silver grayish color right here. These are winds over 145 miles per hour as far as gust, which is a Category 5 hurricane. It's so colored out here that it actually maxes out the color scale that Weather Bell has. So this is getting into 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, tomorrow morning. And then this is landfall on the HFA model, which is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, Jamaica time down here. And this brings that northern eye wall, which is producing 150 mile per hour wind gusts. That's not sustained necessarily, but whoever gets that inner eye wall, which goes around cyclonically, that low level circulation, it's going to be bad. That's where you're going to get the Category 5 hurricane conditions. Please don't think you're going to get Category 5 hurricane conditions, 50, 75 miles away from the actual inner eye wall. That's not how it works. Winds kind of gradually get lower and lower the further away you get from the inner core of this system. So, but please don't let what I'm saying take away from the impact that you guys in Jamaica are going to see. This is about mid-morning, midday. You got a raging major hurricane going right over the middle of Jamaica. We're producing 100, 120 mile per hour plus winds across these higher terrain areas too. And then we get into Tuesday afternoons right between Jamaica and eastern Cuba, and then brings substantial winds into eastern Cuba as we're getting into Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Winds that could produce over 100 to 110 miles per hour. And you're not hearing a lot. Now, I don't see a lot from the comments out of eastern Cuba. I've said that many times. You just don't get a lot of people from Cuba commenting. You don't hear a lot after these hurricanes pass through. You just don't. But you get into Wednesday morning, look how the wind field broadens as the core is disrupted. So a lot of these stronger winds, even though they're not as strong as, where it is in Jamaica, as we're getting into Wednesday afternoon, this is going through the southern Bahama Islands, affecting the Turks Caicos Islands, and the wind field is broader. So these areas in reddish pink that you're seeing here, this is over 100 plus mile per hour wind gust. And you still got some of these grayed out areas. I mean, it's over 120, 130 mile per hour plus winds. So this is causing devastation across areas of the Bahamas. The good news, if there's any silver lining with this, it's the fact that this will be moving a lot faster through this area, but it's going to pack a punch. And let's not ignore the fact that the wind field is very large, even as it's approaching Bermuda. This is like in the middle of the night, this coming Thursday night and Friday morning. So, Bermuda could get a several-hour period of hurricane force conditions, wind-wise. Not a ton of rain from this, but the winds will be quite crazy overnight Thursday, probably into Friday morning. H-Wolf model is that western scenario, and I just want to show it to you guys just in case. It's a little bit further east than the last one, and it makes a landfall now into western Jamaica, but it's pretty far west. So this would bring the worst of the eye wall, especially, just the eye wall in general, right into western Jamaica. And you guys in Kingston, eastern Jamaica would still get significant impacts, but I think that you guys will get just blasted with a lot of catastrophic rainfall, which is bad enough. But as far as the winds, which is that insult to misery, right? I think that if this is the scenario that plays out, then the worst of the winds will be on the western side of the island. But then this comes up. Tuesday evening hits eastern Cuba, goes to the Bahamas Wednesday. Wind field broadens a little bit. And you would think that this would be further west because it starts out further west, but it's actually further east. So it sort of misses Bermuda late Thursday night and a Friday morning with the worst conditions. So this is the chances to see tropical storm force wind gusts, guys. It's a lock for areas of Jamaica, 40 miles per hour or higher wind gust. But Bermuda, pretty much a lock in that red. I mean, that's 70 to 80% chance to see it. So this is just not good, guys. I mean, this is the chances to see hurricane force wind gusts. I mean, even in Bermuda, I mean, there's now a 10 to 20% chance. It's 75 miles per hour, 75 mile per hour wind gust or higher. And it's pretty much locking in for central and west central areas of Jamaica. So just talking about, the pure strength of this system, and we can go back, see where they are with this storm. Yeah, we still got a little bit here. With the strength of this storm, this is the water vapor loop. We've been talking about in the days leading up to what this system is now, which is a Category 5 hurricane. Why it could become, and why I always thought it would likely become a Category 5 hurricane. And that is because once it got into the area that it's currently in, it was going to take full advantage of the warm sea surface temperatures that it's in right now. The sea surface temperatures are in the 80s, mid to upper 80s. And then the wind shear was going to lighten up. Not completely stop, but really lighten up. And, that's exactly what's happened. And this system has been able to create a lot of divergence aloft, a lot of spreading out of the winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And as those winds spread apart, it allows for more air to rise, and then that gets spread apart and leaves more room for more air to rise. Rising air allows for convection. Convection is shower and thunderstorm activity. Shower and thunderstorm activity creates a moist environment. Tropical systems like moist air. So this has been able to develop a tight inner core around that defined low-level circulation, which is the eye of the hurricane. So if you're wondering what you're looking at here, well, this is obviously a hurricane, but this is the water vapor loop. So, the black area over here, that's dry air, and then the whitish blue color, that is moist air, especially the white. So the eye is so cleared out right now that it is dry. And then you got the tight core around the system, cocooned with convection, shower, and thunderstorm activity. And I wish I could pull up the Jamaica radar, but it's just having a hard time right now. But you can see the eye of this hurricane off the Jamaica radar right now. So you can see the spreading out of air, just like this. And, I mean, the environment was modeled very well. Now you can see it's a little bit tighter over here. There's still some air working up against the system, westerly wind shear in the upper levels. So the convection and just the air isn't able to really get dispersed out as much like over here or anything like that. But it doesn't matter. It's not affecting the system because it's developed such a tight inner core. So this thing's just thriving. And really just living its best life down here in the Caribbean. And, obviously these are the sea surface temperatures. The hurricane right now, Melissa, is literally hanging out in some of the warmest waters on planet Earth right now, which is right here in the central Caribbean. 30, 31 degrees Celsius, that's in the mid to upper 80s in Fahrenheit. And you might ask, well, why is the system moving so slow? And this is probably one of the last times I'll explain this, just because, it's a now thing. But, this is Melissa here, and this is the flow in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. And we got a high pressure over here that's sort of stretching out the flow in these winds. You see this wind barb right here in the flag pointing that way? That is where the flow is coming out of. So we got some flow kind of working up, kind of working over here, and it's kind of doing this, and it's kind of doing that. And this is actually what's helping to steer this a little bit to the west right now. But eventually all this is going to weaken, and then you see this trough coming down here. Okay, this is going to come down and kind of whiplash this area of the ridge and weaken it, can't talk. And this will dive down and scoop up Melissa. Okay, and you can see how that happens as we move this forward. Not much of a ridge influence anymore. This is kind of moved away at this point and not really affecting the system. And the flow generated by this little dip here, by this trough, it has a way more of an influence on this system than the flow coming down right here of this ridge of high pressure. So the flow with this trough digging down comes up and scoops this out, and that's why it jolts out into the Atlantic so fast. Now my friends up here in Newfoundland, Atlantic Canada, the latest Euro, does have this missing to the south. Thank goodness. Let's hope that it becomes a trend. So around November 1st, the morning of this Saturday morning, it's well off the coastline of the Avalon Peninsula. That's good news. But we still got to watch it because there is some members off the Google Deep Mine Ensemble guidance that has it making landfall into Newfoundland. So we know that the Avalon Peninsula sticks out. So we will continue to watch it. But for right now, I'm not overly concerned about you guys. But as always, I always like to show love to my folks up here. But I will tell you, Bermuda, it looks like a lot of these members are west of Bermuda. So that's something to watch. But let's see. Hurricane Hunter's still flying into this. And let's create a timestamp. I do have you guys a Bible devotion this morning, and I apologize for not having one since I believe Thursday or Friday morning. But if you're new to the channel, I know I got a lot of new people. I do a Bible devotion about 3 to 4 times a week in the mornings after the videos. And this morning we're in Matthew chapter 7 and verse 13 through 14. This caught my attention when in church yesterday morning. It says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who go through it. How narrow is the gate and difficult the road that leads to life, and few find it." So as always, wrote down a couple things. Said the narrow gate is Jesus. The wide gate is the world. There is no middle ground. If you aren't following Jesus, you're choosing the world, the wide gate. People choose the wide gate because they are lost and ultimately live a life for their own desires. Most are going to follow the path of least resistance, which is the path of the world. They want to sacrifice as little as possible. Scripture says, "Enter through the narrow gate." It commands it. It's not a choice, but it is a choice to relentlessly follow Jesus, which requires sacrifice and getting out of your comfort zone, which we talk about a lot on the channel. Now, I will say this. There is a level of effort, and I think the scripture is kind of speaking on this too here. There is a level of effort after giving your life to Christ that I think a lot of people never quite get to. Now, we all are always going to fall short. We are. We live in a sinful world. That's guaranteed. But, we speak a lot on, When I'm speaking on that level of effort, we speak a lot on holding yourself accountable, trying to be the best follower of Christ you can. Even though you know you're going to fall short, you continue to challenge yourself to follow God's will in your life and make Him priority number one in everything you do. Even after giving your life to Christ, it's still a challenge to follow that narrow path, go through that narrow gate, do all the things that are going to make you uncomfortable, you really don't want to do. Maybe you don't want to go to that new Bible study where you got to meet a lot of new people, but deep down that you need to. And just about 100% of the time after you leave, you're feeling fantastic that you went. And it's the same thing when some people go to church. They make up every reason in the world not to go. And then when they go and they leave, you feel fantastic that you went. And I'm telling the truth too. Even if you are saved and you're listening, continue. And I'm speaking to myself. I do this to myself every day. Continue to challenge yourself to go through that narrow gate. And if you are not following me here, then reach out, send me a message, and we can talk about it. So that's all I got. Praying for you folks in the Caribbean. I'm very concerned. I just want to say thank you once again for people, choosing my channel to get information from, and I appreciate y'all so much. I do. It's been it's unfortunate that this has happened. I was really hoping we would get out of this hurricane season without a storm down here in the Caribbean and Gulf, and mentally I was kind of beginning to switch to colder weather, talking about snow, things like that. But then this came up, and now we are dealing with a Category 5 hurricane. So we'll get you another update tonight, but I'm not quite sure if I'm going to have another video, another evening video on this system, just because it's going to become kind of a now thing, if that makes sense. But we'll continue to pump out information in the mornings regardless, depending on what we got going on. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk again tonight.